So much news for you guys today, but why don't I just start out by, hey, you want a free game? Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is free right now until January 11th on Epic Games Store, so if you're not allergic to the Epic Games launcher, maybe take a look at this one. I played this when it came out, and I quite enjoyed it, thought the story was very good, well acted, all of that, and the gameplay was pretty good too. But the main thing I want to talk about today, although we'll have tons of other stories as well, and all sources will be in the video description, is that the 4070 Super GPU benchmarks are starting to leak out. So not only does it look like these things are indeed real, but we're getting performance numbers showing the 4070 Super almost as fast as an RTX 4070 Ti. But we'll hop into all the details on those benchmarks, but if this is starting to make you feel like it's time to sell your GPU to fund your upgrade to maybe the 40 Super series, then today's sponsor, Jawa.gg, can help you out. And if you're interested in taking advantage of the excellent used prices on their site, I can get you $10 off your first purchase if you use code OWEN10. Now, you could sell your gear here, you can sell all of your hardware here, and take a look at their options, but also, if you're interested in selling fast and not dealing with the hassle of that full process, you can take a look at the Get an Instant Offer button right here. Again, following the link in the video description and pinned comment. And this offers you the simplest and fastest way to sell your GPU. You're not going to get mugged locally or have to worry about that. You're not going to have to figure out all the shipping and everything like that. You just click Get an Offer. You tell them about the GPU model condition for an instant offer. They give you a shipping label, so you just slap that on there, ship it in, they'll inspect it, make sure everything checks out, and most sellers get paid within 1 business day. So if you want the simplest and fastest way to sell your GPU, to fund that upgrade, take a look at this, and then take a look at their great GPU deals, and use code OWEN10 to get $10 off that first purchase. Now, let's hop in and look at what we're actually seeing about the 4070 Super GPU benchmarks that have leaked out. Again, claiming almost as fast as the 4070 Ti. I've seen a couple of sites reporting on this. This one's from WCCF Tech, and it looks to be the same benchmark leaks that I'm also seeing reported at videocards.com. Again, all sources will be in the video description. And so both of these seem to be Geekbench results. So these are synthetic benchmarks rather than straight up gaming benchmarks. And then you also need to decide, okay, so what are you going to use as comparison points? These types of software databases offer a whole bunch of, I think, like user uploaded results, basically, all of that. So which ones do you compare against? It's looking like videocards.com has said that they were looking for at least 15 to 20 similar scores to ensure the accuracy of their data for comparison points. It's looking like WCCF Tech, perhaps I missed it in their article, but it looks like they're a little bit less clear where they are gathering their performance numbers from here, although they would still be Geekbench 6 scores. But anyway, so it's looking like we're looking at the same data set, but exactly what you compare it against can look a little bit different. So according to WCCF Tech's analysis, it's putting the RTX 4070 Super at 98% of the performance of the 4070 Ti. So that would be so close that you couldn't really even tell the difference. However, again, this is a particular synthetic benchmark. It's not... you know what I mean? It's not a wide variety of games and then averaged out, right? So take it for what it is. They're putting it within 2% of the 4070 Ti. Now, if we take a look at videocards.com's analysis, they've got a little bit wider gap here. And again, it looks like they may have gathered more data points to reference against. And they're putting it as 96% of the performance of the 4070 Ti in OpenCL, and at 93% of the performance in the CUDA API. Now, that's interesting, and how does it stack up against the 4070? Well, it is definitely a lot faster than the 4070. So they're basically saying it's performing between 4 to 7% slower than the 4070 Ti, and then compared against the 4070, they're saying, well, it has over 20% more CUDA cores, but the performance numbers they're seeing here are only a 9 to 13-ish, 9 to 12.6% performance increase over the 4070. They're speculating that perhaps we're not getting the full 20% jump because the power consumption has only gone up 10%, despite getting 20% more CUDA cores. In which case, could you then have a lot of overclocking potential here to get some more performance out of that? That's certainly interesting. And the overall, specs that came out of these benchmarks are indeed confirming a lot of what we had seen before. So basically, this puts the 4070 Super extremely close, but a little bit behind the specs of the 4070 Ti, and it's looking like the performance numbers are actually also right there as well. Single-digit percentage difference in the 4070 Ti. Again, maybe not seeing quite as big of a bump from the 4070 as the specs would indicate, but again, this is also one synthetic benchmark leaking out early, right? So we shouldn't make too much out of that on splitting too many hairs. The big question here is, again, the price. The 4070 was originally a $599 product, but in the current market is often available at $550 and then has even gone lower than that when I was looking at Christmas sales, Black Friday sales. I was sometimes finding them as low as even like $520 or so. So that certainly leaves room for the 4070 Super to slot in at that original $600 price point if they're going to keep both cards on the market. And if they, or I guess the other option would be to like replace the 4070 and have this slot in at an even lower price. Now, this being NVIDIA, I'd be more, I'd lean toward it being more likely that they'd probably slot in at the original $600 price rather than coming in at something super aggressive like $500 or something like that, right? But anyway, it's looking like you're basically going to be getting 4070 Ti performance for a significant price cut, if you want to look at it that way. Certainly one way of looking at it. Now, what does that mean? So like, if I pull up a relative performance chart, for example, this is from Tech Power Up, and this isn't perfect, but it gets a lot of GPUs on the list to look at, right? If we set the 4070 Ti as the baseline, if we are within, 5% or so, as this seems to indicate, of performance, that would put you right around like a 3090, a 3080 Ti level of performance, but again, at a significantly better energy efficiency. And, with things like frame generation available, and would give it a bit of a lead, definitely over that 7800 XT, which it's competing against from AMD, which is at that $500 price point, which is, I think, going to make this $500-ish segment extremely competitive. I'm curious what you guys think about this. Again, if this ends up being about the performance that we get, if it did come in around that price point, what are you guys' thoughts on that? I think it's nice to see some movement. Like, it definitely looks like we're getting more performance per dollar than we were with the non-super versions, if this all pans out. Again, we are rumored to be getting all of this happening in all of this officially announced in January at CES in just a couple of days, really. Videocards.com has a chart available for all of what's expected. Again, a lot of this based on rumors rather than officially confirmed. January 2024 stuff. This month is going to be absolutely crazy. So it's looking like AMD will have a January 8th, 7 a.m. announcement of some kind. It is rumored that that could be announcing a 7600 XT 16GB graphics card, which is rumored to be coming on the 24th. As well as it could be talking about a bunch of other stuff as well, of course. And then NVIDIA, 1 hour later, is having some sort of a special address. We are certainly expecting that to be the 40 series Super announcements. Intel would then also be having a January 8th press conference where we'd be expecting to hear about the 14th Gen Core non-K-T series desktop CPUs. Those would be the 65-watt TDP CPUs that are not overclockable. And then the 14th Gen Core HX series mobile CPUs. Anyway, then Asus will be having its own kind of press conference on the 8th as well. Now, the rumored launch schedule then for all these 4070 Super cards, 40 Super cards, is basically that we'd start getting reviews available on the 16th with products available the next day, and then it would be spaced out a week from there for the 4070 Ti Super and then the 4080 Super. So this month is looking like it's going to be absolutely packed if all of the rumors do end up panning out on all of this. Now, again, with benchmarks already leaking out on these things, followed by we're also basically seeing the actual card designs leaking out as well from multiple add-in board partners and all of that. At this point, it's kind of like maybe some of the exact specs and release dates could be questioned, but like it certainly looks like we're getting these things. So anyway, bunch of this information is now out there and available. And what I'm really curious about is if this is going to put downward price pressure on our AMD competitors. Because right now, we've actually seen the 7900 XTX briefly slip as low as $800, where it's usually sitting more like $950. Now, it did only stay that low briefly. But, you know, if the 4070 Ti Super, for example, does come in close to the $800 price point of the, 4070 Ti, but did offer, increased performance where it was maybe more closely competing with cards like this, I think AMD is going to have to lower prices if they're going to sell these GPUs. Again, unless NVIDIA does something like price the Super class just like $100 more than the non-Supers, and then it does nothing to move the needle. But assuming they come in with at least even pricing to the non-supers, I'm curious if we're going to start seeing GPU prices dropping in general. Now, there's also some reasons why we could actually end up see prices go up, though, which would be bad. There's a few things to keep an eye on. One is we're starting to see reports of NVIDIA gaming GPUs facing global supply shortages because AI chips are taking production priority. This is a WCCF Tech article that seems to be reporting on Taiwanese industry sources from my drivers, talking about they're starting to see the lower supply in the consumer gaming GPUs in Q4 2023. And again, could be shifting production to focus more on the higher margin AI focused, workstation cards and AI cards and all of that. I mean, you can't blame a company if they make way more money off one product than another, if that's what they end up choosing to do, but it would be certainly disappointing for the gaming market if we did see the prices start to go up, because if supply is low, then generally you don't get as big price cuts as if they're oversupplied or something like that, right? Now, the other thing to keep an eye on is tariffs, at least for the United States. Originally, it was possible we were actually going to see a 25% price hike in the United States on a whole bunch of PC hardware, including a bunch of graphics cards, because there was a tariff on Chinese tech products like these. I don't know the exact details of the laws. That was scheduled to go in effect on January 1st, but was delayed. Now, it's been delayed, not totally canceled. So it's still possible that at some point, this tariff could kick in and cause a whole bunch of PC hardware, including a bunch of stuff like GPUs manufactured in China, to go up 25% in price with that tariff. I certainly would not be happy to see that happen to the PC gaming market. But again, it's something to keep an eye on. It looks like it's been delayed from January 1st to May 31st. But then the government is going to probably be in discussion with businesses and things like that, because apparently trade groups are annoyed by the decision, claiming that it has affected their business planning. Because again, it's one thing to be annoyed by this going into effect at all, but then to have it maybe happening and maybe not happening, I would see how businesses would be struggling to plan accordingly if that is the case. Anyway. Let's go ahead and keep moving here. We are, again, speaking of, AI GPUs and all of that being a big profit maker for NVIDIA, they are launching another one with the RTX 5880 Ada workstation GPU with 14,000 cores and 48 gigabytes of memory. This is cut down 22% fewer cores than the RTX 6080. So this isn't a new, more powerful workstation GPU. It's a new, less powerful workstation GPU. Anyway, I focus more on gaming performance, but videocards.com has some specs here for you if you're interested. And it doesn't look like we have the price on this one quite yet. Keep in mind that like the 6000 ADA is a $6,800 product. The 5000 ADA is a $4,000 product. This would be, most likely somewhere in between there. And again, looking at those price tags, you would see why NVIDIA would probably be perfectly happy to just keep selling more of those compared to the gaming market. But anyway, we are also seeing some interesting news regarding handheld gaming PCs and Intel. Because up until now, almost all of these handheld, Steam Deck style gaming PCs, the ROG Ally, the Legion Go, the Steam Deck itself, all of them have been using AMD APUs because they have strong gaming GPUs in there. Now, Intel's new Core Ultra series has done a lot to boost the gaming performance of the iGPU, with I think utilizing more of their Arc GPU technology on that. And it's looking like MSI will be releasing a handheld called the MSI Claw that will be using Intel hardware on it. So I'll be extremely interested to see what the performance ends up being like. Because, with all of the other ones being so similar in their hardware, I'll be curious if we see anything interesting from a battery life, performance, anything like that perspective going the Intel route with this new Intel hardware. Speaking of MSI, how about we carry on with some more MSI news? We are seeing MSI and Capcom celebrate the 20th anniversary of Monster Hunter with a limited edition gaming products debut. Now, it's looking like there is a GPU along with a bunch of other stuff. Do we not have pictures? I thought there were pictures of this in the... Anyway, they look kind of cool, but apparently the pictures either aren't loaded or they aren't in this particular article. I saw something else that did have the pictures, whatever. But anyway, if you're interested in Monster Hunter, there's a bunch of limited edition Monster Hunter products there from MSI coming out. So if you want to build a PC around that, maybe take a look. MSI also has announced a lineup of QD-OLED gaming monitors. This is official now, not just rumored. And we're seeing them ranging from 49-inch, 34-inch, 32-inch, and 27-inch models. Now, interestingly, when I was digging into this, it's not looking like these are offering the dual 240 Hz 4K, 480 Hz 1080p settings that we saw on some of the other 4K 32-inch 240 Hz OLEDs from some other manufacturers. Now, I'm not sure how much that feature really matters to a lot of people buying a 240 Hz 4K gaming monitor. They might not be the same people who are looking for a 480 Hz competitive display. But anyway, just mentioning I didn't see that here. The 49-inch model seems to be a 5120 by 1440p monitor, so like super ultra wide. And then their 34-inch is a 3440 by 1440, so your normal 21.9. And then they do have that 32-inch 4K monitor at 240 Hz, but again, doesn't look like it does the switching to the 480 Hz 1080p, and it looks like there's a couple versions of those. But it does look like they're offering a 360 Hz 27-inch just standard 1440p QD-OLED. So it's really looking like this is going to be the year that OLED is just flooding a bunch of the more actual like normal monitor sizes and high refresh rates and all of that. Because until now, a lot of it's been like really large displays or using LG TVs as monitors, and they're kind of big. And then we got some ultra wides, but it's really looking like we're starting to move into OLED being a lot more mainstream here. Now, along with this, and especially how I said that some monitors are going to be having dual speeds, right? Dual hertz options. It's looking like the VESA display certifications are going to start certifying dual mode for gaming monitors. It's looking like they have a version ready for 144 hertz 4K monitors that also support 280 hertz 1080p monitors with adaptive sync. I don't think I'm seeing news of an official one for the 480. Oh, actually, okay, it's actually, so we're seeing, okay, this isn't the official support though, it looks like. So anyways, looks like VESA display might need to also update to what I'm talking about here with the 240 hertz 4K with 480 hertz 1080p. Because I'm not seeing them mentioning that specific certification yet, but it's probably incoming. It's looking like this maybe will be a more common thing. I don't know. But in other monitor news, we are seeing LG now looking to introduce a 27-inch 1440p OLED that goes up to 480 hertz. Remember, we saw the 27 inches OLEDs from MSI I just talked about going up to 360 hertz. So it's looking like LG is targeting even higher refresh rates here on their OLEDs. Although LG, my guess would be that these are probably WOLEDs, WOLEDs, rather than QD-OLEDs, so probably a little bit different technology here. So probably still against some other distinctions. Anyway, LG is also one of the companies talking about the 4K 240s that also work as 1080p 480 hertz modes. So interesting stuff. Now let's talk about Steam for a minute. So Steam is officially ending Windows 7 and Windows 8 support as of January 1st, 2024. So if you are still on Windows 7 or Windows 8, Steam is no longer going to guarantee compatibility with your operating system. It'll probably work for a while, but as things get more and more distant from this moment, it will probably work less and less. The reason given is saying it's required as core features in Steam rely on an embedded version of Google Chrome, which no longer functions on older versions of Windows. And in addition, future versions of Steam will require Windows features and security updates that are only present in Windows 10 and above, and they're strongly recommending people upgrade anyway due to security issues as Windows 7 and Windows 8 are now beyond their security updates from Microsoft. Anyway, I'm just apparently going to flashbang you with a white screen there while this site loads in. In kind of more sad news here, we're seeing Hardware.info, a leading tech website in the Netherlands, has closed down. It's looking like if you're Dutch language tech enthusiast, you're losing one of your largest tech sites. So that is certainly sad to see. It's looking like it's possible that there is the parent company also owns another tech site, and it's looking like there could be some sort of consolidation taking place there, is possibly what's happening, since tweakers.net is also owned by DPG Media. So could be something like that going on. There is a post available that you could, translate machine learning into English and take a look if you want to read the post if you followed that site in the past. Now, again, I mentioned that we are rumored to be getting a 7600 XT 16 gigabyte as part of our extremely busy January launch schedule. The rumor is the 24th. Again, that is only rumored at this point, not officially announced. But it's looking like Chinese-based, GPU buyers may have to wait because it's looking like AMD is considering pushing back the launch because in China, they've already launched a 6750 GRE series, which has it's basically a 6700 non-XT 10 gigabyte and a 6700 XT 12 gigabyte if you look at the specs. But anyway, it had a lower MSRP, so it's possible that this would be too much in the same price class in the Chinese market, so they could be looking at delaying that launch there. I probably should have included that news earlier in the video, but whatever. Back to some more GPU stuff, including the 4090D reportedly starting shipping around January 20th in China. So in China, again, they got a cut-down version of the 4090 to comply with US government AI GPU restrictions, not shipping out too powerful of GPUs to China. So the 4090D does look to be real, and it's looking like it's January 20th when those will start to ship out. Elsewhere in the world, this will mostly be interesting from the standpoint of hoping that this starts to bring supply and demand back in line on the normal 4090s elsewhere in the world, and hopefully then brings pricing back in line to more normal normal pricing. We're also seeing Gigabyte launching three 4090D cards, none of them with a factory overclock. So it's looking like, to comply with the restrictions, it might be the case that these could be just locked down off of overclocking, since we're not seeing any factory overclocking available on the models that we are seeing listed. We're also seeing the RTX 3050 6GB continuing to show up in listings, and this one's actually really interesting, a fanless model. So, okay, the RTX 3050 6GB is likely to not be a very exciting product from a overall performance standpoint. The 3050 8GB already not that great, and if you cut it down to 6GB, not only do you have less VRAM, but you probably have less memory bandwidth as well, reducing overall performance even when not passing your VRAM limit. But it's looking like there is a fanless model available. And a fanless model would be extremely interesting, because if it's under this Calm X branding, we've seen, man, I'm flashbanging you guys with the white screens again. Anyway, we have seen a GTX 1650 Calm X in the past. Now, this is cool where you get these radiators to passively cool it. So this would be extremely interesting if you were looking for some kind of totally silent build. Now, in other news, although I'm not sure if this is the power supply that would make sense to pair up with that product specifically, because this is 1100 watts, we're also seeing Cooler Master releasing a fanless 1100 watt power supply. Which is certainly interesting because, I mean, first of all, seeing just fanless power supplies seems fairly rare, but especially at this kind of power target. So anyway, if you're trying to put together some sort of a silent build, this could be some interesting news. Although, like I said, I'm not sure these are quite the two that you would pair up together, unless, yeah, something else really interesting going on with the rest of the PC. Now, what else is in the news? We are seeing AMD's Ryzen 5 8600G Zen 4 desktop APU leaking out a bit, and we're seeing that it should feature a 2.8 gigahertz Radeon 760M RDNA 3 graphics. So that's the 8600G coming in with a 760M, which would be lower than like the 780M graphics that we get in something like the ROG Allies and things like that. Although there could be other, other GPUs, other CPUs, sorry, coming with the actual 780M on the higher end chips. Because again, this is the 8600G, where we might expect something like the 8700G to come with the full 780M with the 12 compute units. So anyway, getting more ideas of what these 65 watt APUs for the desktop space might look like. I'll be interested if on the desktop parts we'll be able to push the clocks farther than you do on those mobiles and mini PCs and things like that. We're seeing even more AMD news with the Ryzen 7 5700X 3D, which again hasn't really been officially announced or anything, but is now being listed for sale in Europe for 271 euros. We're also seeing a Ryzen 5 5500 GT listed at 134 euros. So again, I would take this as more evidence that these products probably are coming out. Whether or not this is actually the official price points that will hit, I don't know, but it's really interesting to see AM4 continuing to get more interesting looking CPU parts. Anyway, in other hardware rumors, we got a lot today. We're seeing a shipping manifest apparently listing something called an AMD Cuarzo GPUs, which would be quartz in Spanish. And we apparently have some different color schemes. We got rojo, verde, and azul. Pardon my poor pronunciation of Spanish. Anyway, but that would basically translate into red quartz, green quartz, red quartz, green quartz, and wait, do they have another red quartz here? Are they? Is that a misprint here? I think it's supposed to be RGB, so I think they mislisted one of these. Was supposed to be blue for azul. Anyway, Now, it's unclear exactly what these are supposed to be in this shipping manifest, but videocards.com, when comparing a bunch of shipping numbers available and things like that, seems to have narrowed it down to a Navi 32 mobile GPU. So maybe we'll be getting some kind of 7800M out there. If you track down all the shipping numbers and things like that. I don't know. We'll have to see what comes of that. But let's go ahead and keep rolling here. So we've got Peloton, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, launching a high-end mini PC that would come with a full RX 7000M mobile GPU, or possibly a GeForce RTX 40 GPU, but still in the mini PC form factor. And it looks like there's several designs being considered. It looks like one of them would have a little pop-out that's maybe allowing for the GPU. One of them has more of like a smooth curve, kind of bulged edge. But the idea here is to get in that full, the full GPU rather than just an integrated APU into a mini PC. You are going to make it a little bit larger to fit that in. These look like some interesting designs, so mini PC enthusiasts could be interested in those. We're also seeing the Intel Core i5 14450HX, there we go, 10-core CPU, looking like it will feature 200 megahertz higher clock than the previous generation 13450HX. If we go off of the Geekbench score, stats that we're seeing listed here, so it looks like we could be seeing a minor like 2% clock speed bump, like, woohoo! Anyway, again, the 14th gen does not look like a big jump over the 13th gen in any capacity. Now, this is an interesting laptop design. It's looking like Asus, with their ZenBook series, could feature 2 full-sized OLED screens along with a full-sized keyboard. And it's looking like that would go together with some sort of like the keyboard is detachable. Anyway, I think it's an interesting design. I know when I'm on a laptop, I certainly feel constrained when I'm used to having either like an ultra-wide screen or a big 4K screen or dual screens. So having more screen space in the laptop form factor is certainly interesting. Anyway, I'll be interested in how that actually plays out from like a performance and battery life perspective and how does that feel to use, but certainly interesting. Now, we're also seeing, I guess I should have put this back with more of my monitor news, but whatever, we're throwing it in here. Samsung unveils new Odyssey OLED lineup. We're seeing the 27-inch 1440p G6, a 49-inch DQHD G9, and Samsung's first 32-inch flat 4K G8 monitor. So basically, it's looking like we are going to be getting a huge amount of OLEDs, and we'll be hearing a lot more about these very, very soon. So anyway, it'll be interested to get more details on all these. It's looking like videocards.com is reporting that DisplayPort 2.0 does seem to be missing here. So that's one thing I'll be looking at with all of these new monitors is which ones are coming with the new DisplayPort 2.0 standards and which are only using 1.4 and HDMI 2.1. It's probably not that big of a deal because of display screen compression, but anyway, I'll just be interested in which ones will have the more forward-looking ports. Anyway, in a little bit of console news here, the PlayStation 5 Slim is apparently selling well, but not well enough. Apparently, 100 million units won't be enough to recover development costs, and then looking into the next generation, that could start posing some issues. Which is interesting. This video is getting a little bit long and I'm more PC focused, so I'm not going to get into all of those details, but we are also seeing that the PlayStation 5 Pro is possibly going to be featuring some sort of AI upscaling support. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's any new hardware to support that. Could be a AI-trained upscaling algorithm that just runs on normal GPU hardware. Something like that, I don't know. This is coming from one of those Insomniac leaks, which I don't really like reporting too much on because I don't like how that information was obtained. But basically, there was a brief bullet point on a slide about one of their upcoming games that did mention AI upscaling as a feature that they're planning for a game. So that is interesting in how it could pertain to a new AI upscaling technique. Now, whether this is a Sony thing or whether it's in collaboration with AMD, which would be more interesting to me in the PC hardware space, would be interesting because I would really like AMD to upgrade FSR to some sort of an AI-trained algorithm to better compete with XeSS and DLSS image quality. But anyway, I'll leave you with the Steam Awards giving Baldur's Gate the Game of the Year. Awesome. And Starfield getting a Most Innovative Gameplay Award, which I honestly haven't jumped into Starfield very much myself yet, but everything I've seen and played myself, I'm not saying I think it's a terrible game. I know there's a lot of opinions on that, but Most Innovative Gameplay seems to be potentially trolling here, along with Red Dead Redemption 2 receiving the award for Labor of Love, indicating long-term support from the developers, who are definitely not giving that game long-term support. So people seem to be memeing on the on the Steam Awards here. But anyway, this video is pretty long, and don't forget to check out Jawa to sell your old GPU hardware if this is making you feel like you're gonna need to get rid of that to fund your upgrade. And remember, I can save you $10 off your first purchase using code OWEN10. Huge thank you to channel subscribers and especially channel members who click the join button to financially support the channel directly. That is absolutely huge, but huge thank you to everybody just viewing the videos, all of that, and I hope all of you have an excellent day.